right. Welcome to another episode of the Sales Lab podcast. We are joined by none other than the man himself, Adam Robinson. I don't feel like I need to introduce you. I feel like everyone knows who you are on LinkedIn. And I would say, where do you say you're from now? Retention.com or
Well,
RBB2? Where are you?
see, retention.com is just such a dope domain that I think just saying that gives me credibility. So I still
Yeah.
say it. I'm spending, I'm spending all my time on RB2B. I have internal meetings on Monday. So probably 75% of those are dedicated to retention.com and just dude, it's just a different beast, right? It's got 60 people. It's a 22 million ARR. The problems that they're facing are all about, and this is really common. It's if you have a small team and it's all individual contributors, when you add an executive level that is no longer really individual contributors that used to be individual contributors, then a management layer, then people doing the work, oftentimes there's this huge, it's really just a communication problem. It's a common thing to happen, which you probably can empathize with. I'm sure you felt this at times. It's why can't this person just do what I was doing? It's just, it's really easy for highly productive people to feel that way. So adjusting your company to realize things for instance, you need to own this. That's not nearly specific enough. Instead of saying you need to own this, it's okay, so we have this new product that we're launching. You are the customer success head. You need to create a step-by-step process for your reps using the information that the product team gave you to implement in every scenario, right? Whereas our instinct is just to say, you need to own this because it's like that in our minds is accountability. So it's just a whole different type of struggle over there than it is, when you're working with 4 people and getting something off the ground and it's super lean and there's not communication problems and there's not management layers and all that stuff. I'm in the middle of both of them right now. The new companies, when they're working, I think there's nothing like new startups. It's the most fun thing in the world. When they're not, it's kind of demoralizing,
Well, it depends how you view it, I guess. If it's not working, it's almost like the game, isn't it? How do you fix it to make it work?
Yeah.
I guess the question is, how long can you last doing that? Do you find that because you're obviously, everyone knows you're huge on LinkedIn. Have you found that your following is predominantly, because retention.com is e-commerce space, right? So it's completely different to this sales sphere that you're kind of now tapping into.
Yep.
What is the split on your LinkedIn in terms of following right now? Is it predominantly e-com or?
So I was creating content for e-com until Labor Day of last year. So September, late August, September. I went from 0 to 20,000 followers in 12 months. My first post was September of the year before. And then in the first week that I started writing for B2B people about my own problems in SaaS and my struggle trying to scale a sales team and shrinking it, and we sped up and all these whatever, in 7 days it doubled from 20 to 40. And the slope of the line went from this to this, and it hasn't changed yet. It's still growing at a faster rate than, so all that, it's a few things happened. I really understood, literally in that 7-day period, I tell this story. It's so we hadn't even decided to create RB2B yet, but I was so underwhelmed by the actual business that was coming from econ stores from LinkedIn. One reason is they're not on LinkedIn. They're on Twitter, kind of. And second reason is, I don't know which reason's bigger, right? I'm not an ecom guy. So why is a fucking ecom guy going to listen to me talk about anything, right? So and I was really conflicted about this. It's what can I say? Well, it's oh, all right, we all fire people, or we all we all have these broader entrepreneurial issue problems, but that's not as resonant. You know what I mean? It's more the kind of more broad you go, I think the less the less deeply resonant things are with a very tight group of people. And so I'm like, I have a LinkedIn coach. I'm like, Alec, like we're thinking about launching this B2B product. And he's like, dude, like, you know, cause he works with 10 CEOs that kind of all sell to like B2B type revenue leader. Like that's kind of his niche. He's like, if that's what you end up selling, I can get you on the phone with anybody with how much effort you're willing to put into this, because their strategy is basically like create great content. You have incoming connection requests from it. They go through and pick out the ICP connection requests and do some like semi-automated, like, hey, what caught your attention, to just have a message history. And then they let the content get served for 60 days. And then when they go back in 2 months later to these people who they sort of said, what caught your attention, you're literally a celebrity by then. So it's like an 80% book demo rate, you know.
Interesting.
So it's like it's a really effective engine for that. Like strangely, like, so anyway, back to, we're not exactly doing that because it just strangely like worked too well. And we ended up doing a freemium offer or whatever else. But like, so Alec was like, dude, yeah, like, well, do you want to start like doing half ecom, half B2B? And this is without a product. I was like, you know what? I'm so meh on this ecom stuff, right? Like I felt like it did some amazing things. It like created tremendous awareness in the ecosystem for me and our brand, which was really helpful for making the sort of jump that we did in 2023. But like, if it's not driving leads, I'm like, I don't want to sit, you know what I mean? I got better things to do than like create content all day. Like, I'm not trying to like, I like it. You know, I like it better than like the problems that retention.com's having right now. But like, this is not something that I'm going to like spin my wheels doing for the sake of like becoming famous. If it's not driving business, like I'm going to point my attention elsewhere. So, I wrote one post. One thing was like, I made a post about when our VP sales quit, like in July, and it did really well. And ever since then, people had been coming into me and being like, can I talk to you about this? I don't know what these fucking BDRs are doing. I'm like, you know what I think, right? Like there's 10 reasons why it's like harder now than it was a couple of years ago. And like, I think the way the world's set up, demand actually doesn't get created by these guys. Like it's getting created by what we're doing right now. And it's getting created by, you know, the million tentacles you stick out, you know, into the world to like, you know, do the real top of funnel thing. And they're just sort of these days, those guys are just sort of, you know, capturing, and you should be able to automate it, right? A lot of it. So, so I knew that other startup founders, venture people in venture capital, growth equity, they're all thinking the same thing. Like these BDR teams are just too big. So I put out this post about, you know, I talked to, you know, 13 BDR leaders over the past 2 weeks, and here's the 8 things that they all say. And like, I mean, it crushed like, you know, I was used to getting like 70 likes a post max, like usually 50, maybe 35. It got like 3,000 likes. And like the quality of the commenters was insane, you know, just like nothing like I'd ever seen before. And I was like, holy shit, like that's really interesting. Like if I could figure that out, that alone would make a B2B product worthy of creation. Cause like you have this megaphone. So I was on vacation in Santa Fe with some friends. We had an 8 o'clock dinner. I try to batch my LinkedIn posts and like write the 3 per week all at once. So at 6, I'm like, guys, like I need an hour and a half to like write these 3 posts. And I wrote them, and I walked back in, and I'm like, I've been talking about because it was like weird, you know, when something happens to you like that, you're like, man, this fucking LinkedIn thing like just like blew up. Like, I don't know what happened. So I walk back in, I'm like, man, I think I just created like 3 killer posts. If they crush, then I know how to write LinkedIn posts. If they do not, then I'm still totally fucking lost. You know what I mean? And then like first one drops like 800,000 impressions, 3,500 likes. Like second one drops, same thing. Third one drops, same thing. And at the end of it, I'm like, I know how to do this. And so we're like, all right, let's start beta testing this B2B product and see if we can like sort of make it work or whatever.
Drive it, yeah.
And it's amazing because like, we were basically in a discovery and build mode for like 5 or 6 months. And Santosh and Pete were on, no joke, like 5 calls each per day with like the exact titles that we were trying to get a hold of. Like we had hundreds of discovery calls, just like, verifying this product hypothesis we had, which, it's just that like my favorite book about building startups is 4 Steps to the Epiphany.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And the basic idea is like most people build something, get done with it, and go try to sell it. And the problem with that is your intuition is often a very bad indicator of market viability. So the way to massively reduce risk in startups is you build the buyers as you're building the product. If you can get them to pay you for something that doesn't exist, it's an incredibly strong signal. Yeah. And then he writes about how to do it. He's like, oh yeah, make 10 cold calls a day. You'll probably like, that's 50 a week, and you'll probably book 1 or 2 of them a day, right? Like, okay, that's what he was saying we do. Like we were having 10 a day off of this like incredible machine. You know what I mean?
And you weren't even
so anyone. It's like this. Yeah, it's like and by the way, like the thing that I will always say when I'm talking about this is like, think back to what I was saying about ecom. It's like, it wasn't working for me like this with ecom. And one thing people say to me about my content, particularly when I'm talking about like the struggles as a CEO of a scaling SaaS company, they say like, you articulate a unique type of pain that you could know no other way than being in that seat. And like, that's not relevant to ecom people. So like, I think the major transformation, which has made this such an unlock for me, is like, I am now writing to myself, basically, right? Like and that happens to be
like
our ICP also.
Yeah,
it happens to be the ICP also. So there's, you are your ICP, and your ICP lives on LinkedIn, unlike those ecom guys. And I'm willing to say shit nobody else is willing to say, which is like a big part of it too. Yeah. So yeah, the combination of all that it has been totally magical. And then this interesting thing happened where, retention.com, like I read about this a lot. It's like, it's just a high churn product category. And we have a high churn buyer persona over there because they're Shopify stores. And it's just like, the churn fucking sucks. And it's just like going to be hard to grow a lot from here. And the nature of this product is the same way. And the nature of the buyer that we're going into right now is the same way. So I was like, normally startups cannot start with the mid-market because there's no brand, and mid-market requires brand and social proof, right? Like, yeah. So I was like, we're in this unique position where somehow we actually went from being totally unknown in September, by like, January, it was like everyone knew who we were. So I'm like, all right, we have like a trust that we would no longer, we'd never have access to. And we have this ability to do this like inbound LinkedIn demo booking thing, which is so phenomenal. Let's start with the mid-market and have a sales-led deal. And then the content kept working so well that it's like, man, like if we had something that was free for the total mass market, the same advantage we were getting from the virality and scale of content, we would also get in the distribution of our product. Whereas if we did this mid-market thing, there's no scale advantage on the product side. And I was like, a free offer is going to help somebody with the megaphone that we have way more than it would help someone who did not have the same megaphone. So that was kind of how the free thing came to play. Yeah. And now, I don't know what, you know what I mean? Like now I'm in the middle of this and I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like we were just talking about this virtual event that like I started a few weeks ago because Chris Walker said it was like the greatest thing ever. I put out a post about Santosh, who's like a certified G, yesterday. He's leading this Tuesday thing on Tuesday. And it's, so he joined our executive team in September of 2022. The dude sits down and he like gives the most inspiring presentation I've ever seen in my life. Like I was in this weird place where I was like, not restraining my own ambition, but it was like, I'd been stuck at 3 million ARR for 4 years. I'm sure a lot of people, maybe not that long, haven't been stuck, but like, I think it's like a lot of people get SaaS to like 2-3 million ARR, churn problem, whatever. And it's really hard to get them going, kind of lack of product market fit. It's really hard to get them going past that. And so
how did you find them, by the way? How did you find Santosh in the first place and create
so
that?
Like my intention was not to hire him.
Right.
I was looking for people to help me understand the competitive landscape for the enterprise buyer of things like retention.com. I thought I knew why. So like I knew people were capable of it. I'd look at these websites and they wouldn't say anything about it. And I was like, I think I know why. I think it's a data privacy thing. But like, I just want to know. So I was just poking around my network, like seeing, does anybody know anyone who like knows a lot about this data world? It could kind of help me try like navigate this. Cause like, it's like I wanted to, SaaS, you want to move up market.
Yeah.
And then like this PE contact I have was like, you should speak to Santosh. I think he's going to be really interested in what you're doing. And I was like, well, that's cool. And then I spoke to the guy and I was like we talked for 30 minutes. I was like, if I can get this guy to work with us, my life will be forever changed. So I'm just going to see if I can figure out how, and I'm like, dude, can we talk again? And he's like, I don't know if I can help you, but I'm happy to get on another call. So basically, I had a pretty incredible business at the time, especially like if you thought that, we thought that like continuing to hone in on ICP would like reduce the churn of it, like by 3/4 and open up the possibility to like make what we were working on then, like 100 million ARR. Like now that's not really the case played out, but that seemed like a plausible hypothesis. And it was 12 million ARR and 6 people, and it was like growing on its own. Right. So it's like a really interesting place to start. Like he's pretty good at like, going from like shit show to real company, basically, like is kind of, but obviously if you like unlock the right product market fit at the same time, then it just explodes. So he was kind of on his way out with another company. He's trying to get it sold. And basically the market evaporated in front of their eyes. And like, he's like, basically in September of 2022, he's like, I have another year of commitment with this guy, but it's Australia. And it's only, my only purpose there was to like, he's like, I'm working basically half-time. So like, I'll give you 4 hours a day for a year. Give me equity, pay me a lot of money, which like we had a lot of free cash and I was happy to. Yeah. But and then if in a year I don't like it, you don't like it, cut me off, I'll just take the equity that I accrued. If we like it, I'll join full time. So a year went by, he joined full time. And yeah, that's basically the story there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's been is he now helping you on the R2B2 side, or is it the retention side as well?
So it's like he helped kind of like put the fundamental building blocks in place on retention.com, but really where he's like providing incredible value is like on this B2B stuff. Like he pushed me to the B2B stuff very early on. And I was like, dude, we're just not ready. Like, retention.com in 2023 was a total shit show. It was just like really a disaster in terms of like moving too fast. It was messy. We're still sort of like operationally cleaning everything up over there. But around, the end of last year, it was to the point where like I could pay attention to something else. And like our CTO could pay attention to something else. Like the engineers were ramped, like Diana could sort of handle that other operation. And the content was working so well where it's like, okay, like me, Tate, this guy, Rob, who's like a technical sort of like, used to be an engineer. Now he does customer success, customer support, him. And then we hired this other guy, Pete, to work on it. So the push to go to B2B was just like so valuable. And then B, in order to make this free offer, we have to put together this data asset to where it doesn't cost us anything per unit. We're still paying per unit right now, which is it sucks, but like, it's fine because it's going to end at some point in the next couple months. But literally just to like, you basically either have to like pay several $1 million to like Dun & Bradstreet or whatever, or you have to cobble this together by like trading your way into stuff. So that's incredibly valuable. What that has left us with is a data asset that we can start a separate enterprise sales business selling to like whoever, Bombora and like, these data companies that just like buy streams to like make their data asset incrementally better. So he's actually running that right now. We have one salesperson that's already started, 2 data engineers that are like dedicated exclusively to like building APIs and like, sort of making all this data from all these different sources, like kind of uniform and saleable. It's not there yet. They're probably a couple months away. And then there's this RB2B thing, which is just crazy. So I would have in a million years never arrived at this place that we were at without him. And then we couldn't do what we're doing without him, period. And we're going to continue to launch products into it, which is what he's been doing for 20 years. Right. So like, he has experience building the sort of tangential things that as we're like building this inbound led outbound platform, we can just sort of bolt onto it and like sell into this like affinity that we're building.
And what is the concept inbound led outbound?
So like, the story is, as I said before, like I just got roasted trying to like scale out. So like, I think this can happen to, I think a really experienced entrepreneur would be like, well, you're an idiot for doing this. But like, I don't know, if I have 2 people doing outbound sales and that works, then I'm going to assume that I can hire more of them. And at roughly the same rate, the amount of book demos would go up. And like, we went from whatever 2 to, I don't even know what it was. Like we had a BDR team of 8 and like, they were literally booking the same amount of demos as 2 people were. And then I started trying to figure out why, digging through content, like whatever else. And okay, sorry. So meanwhile, we had been overselling the whole spring, and the overselling had like given us this perception that this thing was like a unicorn twice over, right? Like it just seemed like it was so prolific and easy what we were doing. And then it all came crashing down, and our VP sales caught wind of it and quit. And then, we, instead of replacing him and keeping the salespeople, I wanted like an inbound motion the whole time. I'm like, guys, can we just like figure this out and keep 4 of them? And, there were 20. So we did that, and the culture improved so much that everything sped up. And really back to the BDR thing, it's like, there were a lot of reasons other than this, but, like I said before, I do think that like demand is created other ways, and it's captured by these BDRs. I think you still need an SDR, BDR, some automated way to do it. But like the idea that you could just like more of them and not increase your marketing activity and that would work, I think is not a correct assumption. And then I think there is a mega trend in response rates, where, there's no question that more email will get sent next year than this year and every year from now until infinity. And like, the spam filters trying to figure out how to deal with that. LinkedIn's kind of the same thing, cold calling, whatever. So like, I wrote these posts, it's like outbound is dead, right? It's like, it's not dead, but inside sales doing outbound as we know it, I think there will continue to be fewer and fewer people doing that every year in the future, because the effectiveness of that is going down because of this response rate crisis, right? Like, doesn't matter if you're the best in the world, if there's 3,000 other emails around the email that you sent, it's not going to get read.
No.
So it's like, what do? I mean, I think you need to manufacture high intent individuals to contact at the moment they show intent. That's my thesis. So it's like, what is that? For me, and that's kind of inbound led outbound, right? Like, how do you measure intent? To me, the best intent signal that there is just the website visit. And like all this 6 Sense bullshit, all this like
the only
content consumption, whatever, G2. I think it's all shit except for the website visit, because like I don't know. I've paid for G2 many times. I've never seen a single good lead from it. I think G2 is amazing for creating social proof. I think it is like a dog shit second party data.
Well,
platform.
I said to you when we first spoke, right? I said it's the biggest lie in SaaS, intent data.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Not website, but
yeah, all that other stuff. Yeah, the third party. Yeah, the third party stuff. So anyway, what I was sitting there, and another reason I didn't do this mid-market sales motion is like, I'm like, hold on. Like, I just got totally roasted trying to scale out a sales-led org. And I deeply believe that even if it were to still work, because like one of the arguments people make when I'm like, it didn't work, they're like, well, you never should have been able to sell a 25K deal with North American reps doing outbound anyway. That was a fallacy that zero interest rate policy, automation tools, and HubSpot basically made you believe was possible. Fair enough. So if you cut response rates in half, now the floor is 50. Okay, cool. Keep doing North American reps at 50K. What's going to happen in 18 months? Response rates are going to be down again. All those people are going to get fired and the floor is going to be 100, right? What's going to happen 18 months after that? It's 200. Who sells deals under 200K? Almost everyone, right? So like, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, so like, if I do that, it probably works and probably get some love on this inbound thing, but like, I deeply believe that this business model is walking the plank, you know? So it's like, at the same time, thinking about all this other shit, I'm like, well, what is the polar opposite of all of that? That in a world of zero response rates, the model itself still crushes. And it's like organic social media, especially in this, it's like organic social media, and then have an offer that is so strong that it is spreading on its own.
Yeah.
And they kind of work together. And so for me, it's like, I'm trying to do the best content that's out there. And then I'm trying to get on everybody else's podcast who has like anything to do with B2B, even if their audiences are tiny.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll A, give the perception that I'm everywhere. And B, dude, even if like 20 people listen to an episode of a podcast, by the end of it, they will at least have visited my website. And there's a chance that they enter the pool of superfan at some point.
Yeah.
So like,
what's the ripple effect?
You know, and like, yeah. And like back to this whole thing about like why this works so well for me right here, right now is like just the story of what I'm doing is also the story of my product. So I'm not sitting here pitching, right? But like, if I were talking to an e-commerce audience, that's not true. Like my journey is not the story of how the product benefits them. So like, there's this added, I don't know. Yeah. So like, that is the kind of thesis for inbound led outbound. We haven't been doing a great job at the, you know, category creation type stuff yet. But like, that's kind of like the second half of the year I'm trying to focus on it. Like just write a little book like the Drift guys did a while, you know, in 2017 that like just, it's like a cover that says inbound led outbound. And it's like big print and small. And like, we just like mail it to everybody. There's like brand impressions. And then we have this weekly event called Inbound Led Outbound. I'm taking all of these podcasts I'm on and putting them on my own podcast feed that's called Inbound Led Outbound, and just, you know, getting that brand impression out there is like one of the things I'm going to really focus on in the second half.
And do you think organic social is because obviously to get the attraction to the website in the first instance, right, you got to create good content to get people to the website to be able to convert them or warm that up. Is organic social the only way of generating that initial interest to get people to your website?
I don't think so at all. And by the way, I want to say one more thing about one more really interesting thing that does have to do with organic social about the intent signal. So like, I think no matter what happens to response rates, a high intent person sent an email from someone that they know, they will open it. Same thing with a LinkedIn connection request, right? So like, that's like another thing that kind of plays with this organic social influencer world, it's like when you become quote unquote famous, people will open your emails. Whereas like no one's going to open, I got Pete Crowley who works for me. Nobody's opening Pete's fucking email, right? Like they're just not, so anyway, I don't think so like the question becomes, okay, like I sell to hospitals, right? Like, should I become a mega influencer on LinkedIn? Probably not, right? Like, I think you should become a very small influencer on LinkedIn because I think it helps with recruiting and investors and partnerships and all that shit. But like, don't give it half your life like I am, because it's not going to generate real business. The thing that I love about organic social, if you are in the position where it generates you real business, is if you think about like this post that I made about Santosh yesterday, like the level of concentration of someone reading that entire post who's interested in the hook that I laid down about Santosh and then how I described him, it's 1,000 times more than you would ever concentrate on some bullshit ad that someone pushed in your face that has like a case study in it. So that's why I love the ability, like getting the muscle of creating organic content and building an audience based on the quality of the content rather than paid.
Yeah.
It's just create like I have people that like walk up to me at events now and they say like, cause I'm doing crazy shit. I'm like telling the journey as it is. And I'm trying my hardest not to sugarcoat it. It's like, this is what sucks. This is what's great. This is where I'm at. This is how I got there. This is what might work for you. This is what probably won't, like all that shit. Right. Yeah. Like, and I get people that walk up to me at events now and they're like, you're the most inspirational person in my life. So like, A, that keeps you going for a long time. Yeah. B, the fact that the primary marketing channel for our company is also creating for some people that level of affinity is just a remarkable thing. Like no other strategy would do that. You know what I mean? Now, it doesn't work at all for retention.com, right? So like we're still in business over there. What are we doing? Like we're not like it's 70% inbound, quote unquote inbound, but like we have a target account list of 1,400 brands we're going after, and we have people at those brands. Our AEs literally try to figure out people that like affiliates, influencers, people in the ecosystem that know them. And through those people, we try to get people on the target account list to an event, like a dinner or a Lakers game or like a fucking concert or whatever. Yeah. And that is what starts the sales process over there. So like that will always work also, right?
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is in between that. It's like you need a certain ACV. It's like I'm shocked that we can actually make that. Like we don't make it work great. Like our CAC LTV is not phenomenal. It's like 2x or something, but it works. The payback time is quick, and we're good at it, right? Like, but like, what I'm worried about is the actual inside sales motion. Like that's very much a field sales motion, and it's expensive and it like is hard, like maybe we'll be doing that at RB2B at some point, but I'm hoping that we can just like with all this like free and, web, virtual events, like all that stuff. It's like, it's not that. And like the kind of price point and like how easy it is to buy or whatever. But yeah, like strangely, I still call that an inbound model, but like, it's just a result of all of this activity that we're performing in the physical world predominantly. Yeah. Like the media brand of retention.com, I think it was substantial when I was the subject of it, but like I'm not anymore, but it's still 70% inbound, So yeah, it's like, I think you can harness the power of organic social media without being the subject of the content also. It's more challenging. It's really challenging to do it great and be the subject. I think it just requires a lot of creativity if you don't want to be the subject. So what do I mean? I'm going to try to do this for RB2B and I will report on it so you can see if it's working. But, we sell to these most talented Shopify entrepreneurs that exist. There's this dude, Ryan Babenzian, on the D2C side. Yeah. He's got a shower head called Jolie, and he's a fucking G. It's his second time. He's doing all sorts of creative stuff to like market or whatever. But like and the product's great, but their biggest channel is like they basically cold outreached 30,000 TikTok influencers with like 10 to 30,000 followers. So like hit the bottom of them.
Yeah.
Send them a shower head. And we're like, hey, if you like it, will you post about it? And they got 30,000 pieces of UGC in 2023.
Wow.
That's crazy, dude. That's like 100 a day or something like that. So like,
wild.
That is, and Babenzian is not the subject. He is not the face of this brand. It is not him, but he is harnessing the power of organic social media in a different way. So I'm going to try it for this. I'm going to try to be the subject and also get, it's hard because trying to get people to post about RB2B is about us and not them. But it's like, what can we do to give people incentive to actually like post that they're having success with it, right? Like I'm thinking like maybe it's like, we got a lot of followers now between me and Santosh and the brand accounts and all that. Like maybe like we can offer like a boosting service. It's like an audience growth service. It's like for every organic post, like we'll engage with 5 more posts, something like that.
And I saw, did I see it? I swear I saw you saying that you're going to pay, was it agencies or something like that?
Yeah. So like, that's another one. It's like that one, see that one, actually the incentives are perfectly aligned. I think if you don't want to white label and you're comfortable with your customer knowing you use our tech, but you're going to be the one who engages it. Right. And so you can like bill incremental for value-added service monthly. It's like, I think we can do 3 things for them. One, there's this incredible dopamine hit that happens when we push a lead into Slack.
Yeah.
And the agency can actually own that. Like the customer doesn't associate it with us at all. They associate it with the agency, the guy who set it up. So it's like kind of a retention mechanism. So they can also set up a positive reply Slack channel. And they have these 2 things that are happening that just reminds the customer that they exist, which is a huge problem for agencies, I think.
Yeah.
I think most agency relationships end when the customer is like, what the fuck is this guy doing for me? And I'm paying him $5,000 a month, right? Like that is, I think, the end of 98% of agency relationships. So there's that. And then there's like recurring revenue for the managed service. And then if the agency, which I think a lot of these guys are actually using LinkedIn to grow their agency, then if they post about success stories and tag us and tag the brand and tag themselves, we will put our ad spend behind that. So like that's perfect incentive alignment. That's like us getting them visibility that they weren't going to spend dollars on, on their own.
Plus they'll have to put that they're a brand expert or something like that for you guys, for you to boost it. So then naturally you're on their profile as well. And
well, I mean, in theory, the what we're saying to them is like, post a case study about the workflow that includes our tech, right? So it's like, RB2B to Clay to Smart Lead to this to that, right? Like, we'll show them how to make a video of it. It's like it can include all the other vendors. It just has to include us. But like, publish your workflow
that way as well.
Yeah, exactly. Publish your workflow, and if it includes us, we'll gas it for you.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. And do you recommend when people come onto the website at the moment, like, are you seeing the best form of outreach to people is hitting them up on email, or are you thinking, is it like a waiting game and then you warm it up? Or
I don't really believe in the waiting game. Some people feel pretty strongly about it. My experience with sales has always been the quicker you react, the better it ends up going. You may piss a small percentage of people off doing that, but like, time is a strange thing on the internet. Like 24 hours on the internet is not 24 hours in the real world. I don't know what website, like if you look at your web history of yesterday, it surprises you what you were looking at.
Yeah.
You know, 7 days on the internet is literally an eternity, right? So like, if you think you want to wait a week and reach out to these people, they're no longer higher intent.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance they have no idea who you are. Right.
Yeah.
So I think reacting quickly is the only, I think that's the way to do it immediately if possible. I think only hitting up your ICP and pretty near ICP is worthwhile. We're going to have an ICP filter soon. You can ICP filter in Clay.
Nice.
But yeah, man, like really basic stuff, just like a LinkedIn Connect, very short, succinct, to the point LinkedIn message. Put them in an email sequence that works for you. Like any email sequence. So like all these are, at the end of the day, are very warm leads. If you have anything that is booking somewhat cold leads and you put very warm leads into that workflow, it will book demos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it just will. Like I haven't met a single person that's like, I have a system to take Apollo leads and convert them into demos at a regular rate that has not been able to make this work.
Yeah. Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I guess maybe to wrap it up then, man, what's next for you? You going to piss any more big SaaS companies off, get sued?
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to just keep taking jabs at 6 cents as long as I can, but I am very sensitive. It's like the last post I did was kind of like, it didn't land the right way. I am very sensitive to the fact that like, at the end of the day, like people don't really give a shit. Yeah. And like, I have to like post content that people care about. So, I'm not just going to go crazy with it, but it's just so incredible.
Poke the bear.
Gerhard said this. He's like, anytime you have a chance to punch up, you got to like punch up as hard and as frequently as you can until it stops working. Right. So, that's what they have done. They've like given us an opportunity to basically, even though our product is kind of nothing like theirs, like people have this, it's like, oh, it's like 6 cents, but it's free. Right. Like, it's so amazing that that's the case, because they did build, it's such a strange paradigm, the 6 cents thing. Like if 6 cents were like Klaviyo, who is the darling of the Shopify world, there's no way I could do this to them, because people on LinkedIn would get Klaviyo's back and be like, you're an asshole. Like, Klaviyo is a great product. It's valuable. But like, there's this weird thing where like all of 6 Sense's controlled, UGC, like G2 and Gartner and like Glassdoor, whatever, it's all pristine. And then you're like, if you write, I hate 6 cents, hundreds of people will come in and be like, they're rats, they're criminals, they sell snake oil. And no one, like on that cease and desist post, there wasn't a single 863 comments. Not a single person got 6 cents back and was like, yo, like, it's a good product. So like, it's this unique situation. And I'm going to milk it while I can, while it's there. And when it stops, I'll stop and, whatever.
Nice.
So.
Well, listen, man.
Yeah, man.
Great having you on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Max. This was fun.